Pipebomb Radio.
What?
With your hosts, Felix Olmedo and Austin James.
This voice, this is power. In anybody else's hands, this is a microphone. In my hands, it's a pipe bomb. It's showtime! Woo!
How do you catch a falling star? How do you fix a broken heart? How can we go back to rewrite this from the start? Back when our world glowed from just a spark.
He came in and changed the game. Really made us all, whoa, look at this guy.
It's the power of the Ultimate Warrior. It's something that you want to feel, that you want to taste.
He just screamed excitement.
Something about it makes the skies rumble.
He was just on fire all the time. You couldn't help but be inspired by his energy.
The Ultimate Warrior has stood the test of time. He's part of history.
Every man's heart one day beats its final beat. His lungs breathe their final breath. And if what that man did in his life makes the blood pulse through the body of others, it makes them bleed deeper in something than larger than life, then his essence, his spirit, the running the man did, live forever.
My Teen Warrior girls, you weren't even alive in this world yet when Daddy was doing his Ultimate Warrior thing. But I tell you what, the most awesome thing I will ever do is be your father.
I am Ultimate Warrior. You are the Ultimate Warrior fans. And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever.
Just give me one more time.
Hello and welcome everybody to a very special edition of Pipebomb Radio tonight, where we go ahead and pay tribute to the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only, the Ultimate Warrior. As always, joined with me is Austin. What's up, buddy?
Nothing much. The Ultimate Warrior. I don't know if you were watching the whole entire thing that he did on the network with it, just showing his couple matches. But I think it's actually from the DVD.
You know, I'd heard, and I knew that they were going to do some kind of 4-part tribute this week. I had actually already seen the DVD. I will definitely check it out, since I think I could still. I could probably check it out on my cell phone, because I think obviously the WWE Network is allowed on the cell phone, isn't it, Austin?
Yes, it's actually allowed everywhere on smartphones, computers, Xbox or PS3 that you probably don't have. Everyone.
No, I don't carry that. I'm too old for that. But then again, somebody older than me probably has one, so I can't really say that.
The only reason why I use my Xbox is for the WWE Network. That's it.
But yes, I seen the tribute they did this past Monday. It was, I wasn't really familiar with the song choice, but I think after listening to it the second time, I think it was a really a good choice in music. And I think what kind of brings a tear to people's eyes is his comments he made to his daughters. And no matter whatever he does in his life, being their father will always outshine that. I thought that was very nice. But a lot of changes. Nobody would have, and I can tell you, neither one of us would have expected to be doing this kind of show just a little over a week after we had seen him return to Raw. But be that as it may, I guess at this point we're just gonna have to roll with the punches and talk about what kind of man he was. Some called him psychotic. Some called him full of energy. Most will probably never forget the kind of energy he would bring into an arena. You know, he well, let's just put it this way: he wasn't the greatest wrestler, but the fact that he could get people on their out of their chairs and on their feet to cheer for him, or like wonder what the hell's going on, I give him all the credit in the world for that.
And like I said earlier, I made this phrase saying that he was the embodiment of entertainment, like entertainment. I think it was the phrase that I said. He was the embodiment of everything that was intense and just real. You know, it was a real feeling when he went into the ring, because he connected to every single person that looked up to him. And I mean, and that's what I'm saying, that he might not have been the best wrestler, but every single ounce of that was made up by the intenseness that only he can bring, that only he will ever bring. Because, I mean, the warrior spirit, that's what he carried on. That's what's going to live on forever.
Yeah, I agree. You know, at this point, he was a motivational speaker. He had his ups and downs with WWE over the years. But and some would even say he was also in the same category as Bruno at one point, because most of us never really thought it could actually happen, that we would see them return to WWE and even go in the Hall of Fame. But they made it happen. Go ahead.
I'm saying it was a huge surprise to me, because if you've ever seen that terrible DVD, the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, that really put him in a bad light. Like, they purposely tried to put him down on the ground and, put all the dirt on him. And they definitely did a job at that, because they ruined, well, I'm not going to say ruined, because I think the real Warrior fans that were, before seeing that DVD, knew the type of person that he was, that what he brought in the ring that was unique more so than anybody. And him coming back, that shows that he really is a unique person. But I don't think, honestly, if that was in my position, for something to disrespect me like that, I would never, return. Because that's not cool.
A lot of it can be thanks to, I call Triple H a lot of names for for the fact that he can be certain ways, but truth be told, he's the one that kind of, mended fences with WWE and these two guys, and basically he's the one that got them in. Vince was willing to go along with it, but I don't think he was really willing to put in the work, because of the fact that, well, let's just be honest, Vince has a huge ego, and if he wants something done, I think at this point he would have wanted him to kind of bend over backwards and kiss his ass or something like that. But Triple H was all business. He handled it right. It took a while, but it did happen, and a fitting end to, or you can even say an exclamation point to a career that he had, from the Dingo Warrior all the way up to Warrior, to him changing his name Warrior. He definitely left an impact on all the fans, and I think that with the fact that he's in the Hall of Fame, his career will live, his legendary career will live on forever.
Definitely. And like I was saying, it would have taken a lot for me if I was in his position to forgive. That shows exactly what type of person he is, because for somebody, just that event to happen to him and really, dig into the ground, that had to really take a lot out of him, like inside, to forgive them and go on and show them, because he even said himself that he would never have returned if he didn't have the chance to say the real story. And with the Ultimate Collection, I think he did, he went out with that job, and he did an excellent job with that, showing, his real story from the start to the end, and it's phenomenal. Like you said, you watched it too. I actually watched it earlier today in its entirety.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. It took me a couple
really
days, but I watched it. It was actually very well done, and I like the fact that he commented on certain parts of his career. From working in starting off when he was working with Sting as a Blade Runners. I can't remember if I say that right. Yeah. I think they were working with Watts in Mid-South, and then eventually made the journey over to World Class, got noticed there, and made the trip up to WWE, and the rest is history. He's, the wars he had with Rick Rude, Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Undertaker,
awesome.
Papa Shango.
You know, and many more of you that he's had the opportunity to have some really just intense matches with. So like I was talking about Steve Borden Sting. I don't know why I'm saying his real name, but him and Ultimate Warrior really stuck it out together at the beginning of everything, and going, tagging along together. And you can't really do much in professional wrestling on your own. You kind of have a support system in order to go anywhere. And they kind of had it. It's pretty funny because anytime you would see a Waffle House on the road with them, every single time, no matter if they had there's a lot of Waffle Houses, especially in the South. Anytime they seen a Waffle House, they had kind of like a contest going where they would stop at every single one on the road. No matter if they just went to one 10 minutes ago, if there was one up the road, they would go to every single one. And when they didn't eat at the Waffle House, it was pretty disgusting, but they put fish, tuna, and mixed it in with orange juice and drunk that as I guess as a protein. I'm not sure, but I mean, I tried it one day and oh my God, it isn't that bad. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is. It's horrible. But I guess not for
love
them.
my
I guess
tuna, but I would never put it
survive.
in juice. That's insane.
Well, I mean, it's kind of I guess it's it was cheap to do that, and it gave them energy to go on with professional wrestling. You don't really get a lot of stuff in your wallet, and especially for working at that level that they were at the time, and you had to kind of revert to some cheap ways in order to get by. But you're talking about World Class Championship Wrestling. I actually have a clip we're going to play here with the Ultimate Warrior, with Dingo Warrior at the time, with Steve Simpson being interviewed by Bill Mercer.
You just saw Dingo Warrior go in and help Lance Von Erich and Mike Von Erich in their battle against Bourne and Sawyer. And now these two are going out in the next bout against those same Matt Bourne and Buzz Sawyer. Steve Simpson, you got a big, very strong, and very able companion now.
Damn right. In 10 minutes' time, we're going to be going out there for the tag team titles. I've been waiting a long time for this, and I'm feeling very confident. I know I've got the best partner I could get. I'm behind him 100%. He's behind me 100%, and that's what tag team's all about. A strong chain with no weak links.
Dingo, the championship is there. Does that mean as much as just getting a chance to beat Bourne and Sawyer?
I said on TV a few weeks ago, all you people have seen the tapes. You know what's been going on between me and the Mad Dog and the Maniac. A couple of weeks ago, I said that one of the most important things to me was to get the World Tag Team belts. Getting the World Tag Team belts isn't unimportant to me now, but getting revenge is the most important thing on the Dingo's mind right now. You people have seen me wrestle with a lot of people, against a lot of people. People have turned their backs on me. That's where it started with the Mad Dog and the Maniac. I've had partners that have let me down. Well, I got a partner now that isn't going to let me down. Somebody that's going to back me up all the way. We're going to go out and we're going to give it 110%. The Dingo is mad. And he's going to get revenge. We're standing in the locker room right now getting ready to go out in a half hour, 45 minutes. I can't tell you what's going to happen. But the Dingo is going to get revenge. He's not going to let the people down. You can count on that.
Sounds like you've got a partner ready to go.
Like I said, we socked up. We're confident. Pringle, I hope your boys are ready, because we are.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Dingo Warrior. Steve Simpson and the Dingo Warrior ready to go out in just a moment and try to get that tag team championship.
Well, that was actually kind of fun. I was surprised that you were able to find that, Austin, because I know a lot of the footage from World Class, it's tough to find, and a lot of times you can't hardly hear it or barely see it.
This was excellent footage, and it kind of shows how, especially in this time and looking back now of his entire career, once it was, you're seeing it and overviewing it, he really, I keep saying really a lot, I've noticed that, but anyway, he evolved in character-wise. He really evolved from point A to point B, and just a couple of years, not couple, maybe like many years later after that, from WCCW, he getting into that, just getting more and more intense with his character is what really brought him out. Because if you notice in this interview, I think the Ultimate Warrior, looking back at everything, he capitalized on with his promos and stuff on main emotions, like you have fear, and you have revenge, you have the feeling of revenge, fear, and just so many different emotions that he capitalized on is what's comprised to make and create the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah. Honestly, he had some of the most bizarre promos that I've ever heard him do. I mean,
the
point was he wanted to make a statement. He wanted to make a point about what he was going to do to his opponents, but his style, his approach to doing that, well, let's just say he definitely was far away from the normal guy's promos. He had, like you said, that intensity, and it was just fun to listen to because I didn't know exactly where he was going with it. But eventually, when he got to the end, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, you say I talk really fast, which I do, but I don't think I can compare anywhere close to the Ultimate Warrior. I think I have to go step up by just looking at my hands and just turning around from time to time, really moving around like when he was on with Arsenio Hall. Yeah, I'm gonna play that in a few minutes. He's been next to me playing, and that was insane. That was the moment there was you seeing people like Randy Savage and Arsenio Hall, and it's just not just him, but Arsenio actually acting just he had
a lot of WWE guys.
Things. I know it's just the way he reacts, especially to Ultimate Warrior, was insane.
Well, with Arsenio, you wouldn't know exactly how Warrior would react to those questions, and I'm sure it probably scared the hell out of him to even ask, but, he did. And it definitely made for great entertainment.
When you look back at his interviews with Regis and Kelly, and this is when he kind of started in WWF, whatever at the time. And
actually, it would be Regis and Kathy Lee.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm in this age right now, right?
That's before Kathy Lee retired from the show, but you probably wouldn't have. You weren't even around at that time. So, anyways,
absolutely
go ahead.
Not, but Regis and stuff like that. When he was on there, really early in his career in WWF, he wasn't really as intense with interviewing. But when you see him, I'm going to play this in a second here. But when you see him on Arsenio Hall, he took it to the next level, and even above that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even with Warrior going out to New Orleans with his family, I don't think he ever really turned anybody away for autographs. I mean, even the one that somebody got at the airport with him. I mean, he's all smiles, and he's with his family. He's definitely happy to meet with the fans, even unexpectedly, as obviously in the airport going home. But like I said, he met with a lot of people, and it was a good time for him. And I think most say they have never seen him as happy as he was this past weekend, for WrestleMania weekend.
So here's the Ultimate Warrior on Arsenio Hall.
The greatest tradition in sports takes place this weekend, and I'm not talking about the Final Four in Denver. I'm talking about WrestleMania 6 in the Toronto Skydome. My next guest will be taking on Hulk Hogan. For all the marbles, I want you to see this man in action.
Looking for a usually Vicino Bravo going up. Going way up there. Yeah. Way down. The Warrior off the rope and down on his right. We're covered. The count of 1, 2, and 3.
Please welcome the man known as the Ultimate Warrior.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Right on. Yeah. Okay. Hey, we're out of time. No, that's a joke, man. That's just a joke. Let me ask you a question. I missed wrestling like a few weeks. Hey. You have a short attention span. I missed wrestling for a few weeks. I thought you and Hulk were close. I thought you all worked together at one time, and now apparently you don't like each other anymore. Would you like to expound?
No thinking. I have no disrespect for Hulk Hogan. It has nothing to do with respecting Hulk Hogan. It has to do with what the Warriors and the Hulkamaniacs have already decided. Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan has been the greatest WWF champion there has ever been. But I, the Ultimate Warrior, have not yet been. Sunday, April 1st, as my warriors hang from the ceiling of the Sky Dome, and at my command, they make the sacrifice. Then I will begin my reign as the greatest WWF champion that ever lived.
Okay. Too much coffee, man. Come and sit. You are a very...
coffee.
Anger.
No anger. I only live to do combat with those that are the greatest. And Hulk Hogan is the greatest.
Okay. Let me ask you something. You're a very talented athlete, and you look huge next to me, but Hulk Hogan is a much larger man. How are you going to deal with him in the ring?
Everything about me is larger than life. Everything I have is big. Hulk Hogan! Hulk Hogan! You must deal with the power of the Warriors that flows through these veins. At WrestleMania 6, Hulk Hogan.
I've always wanted to ask you why you wear the war paint. Ultimate, or should I call you Ultimate or Warrior? How should I why
those that have made small sacrifices call me UW. But those that have made no sacrifices must call me the Ultimate Warrior.
Okay, and where does this come from?
This faceplate is for communication with the Warriors. As I lock eyes with a warrior that has his face painted, and the outer edges of this faceplate interlock with each other, then I know that that warrior is ready to make that sacrifice so that I shall live.
I've really enjoyed talking to you, man.
Well, that was pretty funny. I mean, I can just see Arsenio's face with the intensity that Warrior had back then. I think he was just scared to death of him. And I didn't see the video, but I can only imagine Arsenio's face.
I cannot tell people enough that the video, the sound, does not do a single bit of justice. You have to watch the video in order to really understand what's going on, because the Ultimate Warrior's just when he ran to the actual, location, in the where Arsenio was set up at, he was just throwing all the, the couches, the couch pillows and stuff like that. He was he attempted to look for something. I don't know what he was looking for, but he was frantically just moving around because he probably, I don't know, he's the Ultimate Warrior. Is that intensity and that really shown over there. He was like an ADHD kid, and it was funny. But the one thing I think that really stuck out from that specific soundbite there was he's like, Arsenio's asking him, well, what should I call you exactly? Should I call you Ultimate or Warrior? And he's like, those who make small sacrifices call me UW, but those who make no sacrifices call me the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if he ever brought that up again after that, but yeah. And, some would say the greatest matches that he would ever have would have been against Hogan, and that's what they remember him for. But to be honest, I always thought he did much, much better in his matches with Randy Savage, whether it be at WrestleMania 7 or even at SummerSlam in 1992 at Wembley Stadium. I always enjoyed because Randy was such a perfectionist that Warrior really didn't have to do much, and Randy made him look like $1 million.
And you know, with you're comparing that, and I'm gonna say my piece about this. But in my opinion, the matches, the better wrestling matches, were between Hogan and Savage. Not Hogan and Savage, Warrior and Savage. But if you're talking about the actual overall presence of a show in a specific time frame, that was Hogan and Warrior. At WrestleMania 6, there's never going to be another. And I think the personal best that Warrior looked as a character was at WrestleMania 6, where he had his hair his hair was the most epic thing I've ever seen. Just how his entire presence, not just his hair, but I think his hair really brought out I remember that. Back then, what was in back then in the late 80s, early 90s was actually big hair, and it worked for him. It worked for him. I mean, the rock bands had the long hair, and Warrior had the long hair, and it just worked. That was just the fashion back then. Some could do it, some couldn't do it, but he pulled it off, and he did great. He pulled it off better than anybody. Nobody else could look that good with hair like he had, and with the mask. It was just the colorful dismissive of his face was that was really. That's what I'm trying to compare between the Hogan and Savage and not Hogan, Warrior and Savage, and
you got Hogan on your mind.
Hogan
I see that.
And Warrior. It's the difference. If you want to look for a better actual match, like wrestling wise, you can look at Savage versus Warrior. But for the overall just presence and just I can't explain it. When you can't explain stuff like this, it has to be really good. It was. I can watch that match 1,000 times. And same with the Savage match. I mean, both have equal parts that are amazing, and that's what people need to remember about the Ultimate Warrior. That he had those. He might not have been the best wrestler, but those who were to work well with him and really try to work with him had some of the most epic matches ever.
When they did the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD years ago, I know Vince had a lot of his guys come on there and talk smack purposely, but the one person who always, had respect for the Warrior, and this is actually coming from one of our former guests, Lanny Poffo. He always said Randy respected Warrior, and they always had good relationships in the ring. Outside, he respected him, but Randy was always such a loner that they weren't the best of buddies, but he respected what he brought to the table. And I know going through Facebook in general, I've seen a couple of people tell some road stories about riding with Warrior, and most notably it was actually Marty Jannetty.
Mm.
He told some pretty great war stories too, and if you ever got the chance to read them, definitely would be worthwhile. If you follow him on Facebook, you can check it out.
I actually remember Warrior tagged along with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty for a bit, and with the Rockers, and I don't think it was for that long. I think it was actually pretty short, with them all together. But and I think Warrior's brought in to kind of add in the extra inner, the extra charisma, I guess, that maybe the Rockers were lacking. And I don't think they really were. I think they kind of had it all together. But if they had they needed that extra, really just, I can't explain it. If they needed that extra, something, Warrior kind of gave it to him, and he tagged along with him for a bit. And I guess, and what was that story? Can you reiterate?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Can you reiterate what the story was? You remember this is the road story?
Well, the most recent one that I remember reading, and I was just, I would say about an hour ago, Marty was talking about, I guess, when they were at an airport trying to make it to catch a flight, and people were actually, they were literally running just to make it to make it in time, but I guess people kept noticing Warrior, and running and wanting to approach both of them to get autographs. And Warrior didn't understand how people recognized him. But I guess at this point he was wearing the Warrior jacket. He had boots that had, one side said Ultimate, the other one said Warrior. He had the hair, he looked like him. And he was wondering why the people were noticing him and trying to catch him, and he didn't understand why. Well, Marty said, well, you're practically a walking billboard for Warrior. There's no way they could not have noticed. It's little things like that these guys, when they ride up and down the highways together, they look back on those moments and laugh.
Well, I don't think Warrior even knew how much of an impact he had on the people that watched him, because I think it's pretty hard to notice a guy that's walking 30 miles per hour, whatever, like really fast down the ramp and into the ring, and just doing that. I think it's pretty hard to notice just getting. But those that noticed him, and they noticed him pretty quick, just like he was, running down like he was, and that really was made him who he was. I don't think you've seen an entrance like his ever. Like, he kind of basically started it, with the really just extravagant entrances. And even though it was just him running, it was much more than that.
Of course. I mean, he was, I guess another one good moment I remember, because of the fact that it just kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody expected it. Being back in the 80s and 90s, there was no internet dirt sheets that could spill the spoilers for you. You were literally surprised, or you weren't, that something would happen. And this was at SummerSlam 1988, and the Honky Tonk Man at that time was the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, and unfortunately his opponent, which was Brutus, had got injured, and ultimately it was Warrior that came in within a matter of seconds, won the title.
Yep.
And the crowds back then were so ridiculously loud. I missed that. I remember how, and even in the 90s, I mean, the 80s and 90s, their crowds were awesome. Now, you don't see it too much.
You know what I was expecting back then, and I'm just saying this from looking at, just watching all the wrestling that I have. Back then, they didn't have anything to expect. They were just, whatever was going to happen was going to happen. They didn't have to look on they didn't have like those dirt sheets to look on and try to find something that would give any hints in what might actually happen. It was all, I'm guessing, a surprise. And I think you have to be pretty surprised when Warrior rushed in and defeated Honky Tonk Man after being the Intercontinental Champion for, I think it was like 2 years. And
pretty much.
And that was insane. I wouldn't, for me, just watching that, for Ultimate Warrior to rush in like that, I don't know if I would expect him to win. For a guy that's been IC champion for 2 years, but when he did, I guess he was the guy to do it.
And they even talk about it all these years later. I believe, let's just say a former partner that I worked with on Pipebomb Radio, he represented both Warrior and Honky Tonk Man. And, they had great respect for each other. Honky never really badmouthed Warrior in any way. He knew he was always, Honky in this case was old school mentality and definitely never minded passing the torch to a younger talent if it was good for business. And he definitely did that. They still talked about it years later, so I thought that was pretty cool. As far as that goes, I also like the fact that, and this doesn't get even brought up anymore, because they're always quick to jump on the matches that Warrior had with Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan, but they seem to forget, too, he had some pretty intense fights with Rick Rude.
Mm-hmm. That was, I think that was, along with a couple others, that was a really good match. Just the ones that he had with Rick Rude were really good. I don't know what clicked between them, but they clicked when they were in the ring together. Especially with Bobby Heenan at ringside.
Well, Bobby was doing what he did best, and that's always antagonize the crowd.
He did it well.
And making his guys look good.
That's understatement. But, I actually want to play a clip. I should have played this before, the Arsenio one. But this is from, I believe, maybe 1989 or maybe the beginning of 1990, where the Ultimate Warrior has words for Ted DiBiase regarding the WWE Championship.
Okay.
Ultimate Warrior Ted DiBiase says that everyone has a price. Well, let's talk about the power of money and what money can buy. And more importantly, let's talk about what the $1 Million Man will do to get the World Wrestling Federation Championship belt.
All the money in the world can't buy what it takes to be a champion, Ted DiBiase. Dollars do not buy desire. Bankrolls do not build biceps. And the world does not sing your praises because of C-notes.
Ted DiBiase, it is not the power of money that flows through these veins. It is the power of my warriors, a power that cannot be bought. Yet a power that came to me at a tremendous cost. Sacrifice. And sacrifice, Ted DiBiase, is the bottom line. What are you willing to give up? How much is the World Wrestling Federation Championship belt really worth to you? You say that everybody has a price. Well, what price are you willing to pay?
That was Ted DiBiase. I guess Warrior had a few words to Ted DiBiase, in their match that they had in 1990, and that was that was the year where Hulk Hogan and him tangled in WrestleMania 6, and after he won the title from Hogan, everything went really well for him. I think that was his best year, I think.
Hey, what did you think of Ted DiBiase as a heel back then?
Excellent. I think he is one of the best, heels ever. Because bringing in, I don't think anybody else could bring in The Undertaker like he did. And
the quintessential millionaire. People, when he did that character, obviously he retired, and then JBL came along and created his character, the quintessential billionaire, which he thinks he's a bit better than everybody else. It's a shame that it didn't work as well with Alberto Del Rio, because the crowds today, the audience, the WWE universe, if you will, is totally different. They think they know it all. They want certain change, but they don't. When they get it, they don't like it. And it's just a picky crowd. The fans are much more picky now.
They get tired really quickly when they're watching. And
yeah, they do.
And you know what you were saying about Ted DiBiase? One of the things I think really drove him as a bad guy is when he brought the kids up on the stage and made him play fight for the money. And in the end, they never got it.
Yep, I remember. Back then, it was so much fun to watch. It was fun. It wasn't so much where they were worried about ratings. They were worried about beating this company or that company. It was about having fun, having have their audience having fun. The guys out there putting on a good show, whether it be the top guys like Hogan, all the way down to the mid-card guys like, God help me, Coco Beware. They put on a good show. The characters back then were so amazing, and he was a part of that league of the guys and gals back then. I can only imagine how much fun it was for Warrior working that. He even said it himself. He was difficult at times to work with, but for the most part, he respected everybody who respected him.
And as much as people want to say that the Ultimate Warrior was a gimmick, I think it really was him. He is that character. 110%, there's no way he could just put that on. It has to be within him all the time, because he brings it anytime you just hear it in his voice. That's him.
Agreed. That's and then when he did the name change to Warrior, the fans really didn't know what to make of it, because they didn't understand why he did it. And I believe I don't know if he really made sure it made sense back in his DVD, but in all round, I think he did fine. I think the fact that he did that, it was his choice, but at the same time, it's that way that he can own his own gimmick and really take it, as you said, he lived it. He was Warrior. From sunrise to sunset, he was Warrior.
If he didn't believe it, he wouldn't have changed his name, because a person with the name Warrior, and you get asked, so what's your name? My name is Warrior. Okay, well, are you lying? Are you trying to play a joke with me? And I think it takes a lot of pride for somebody to own that name. Not own it, with the whole entire court side of things. Really own it in themselves. Just take that name and run with it. And he believed in it. He believed in himself that was who he was inside and out. And he was, all the time. And you've seen, when he's running down the ring, being the Ultimate Warrior, that was unique. It's one of the things you can't explain. It's I don't know, intangible.
That's for sure. go back then, a lot of matches come to mind that he had, but even when he came back in '96, I'm not sure exactly how much truth there was to Triple H really enjoying working with him back then. I mean, they didn't know each other very well, and it was a short match, and Warrior's stay was very, very short-lived. But I don't know. I don't know if he really fit into that time frame. He was more part of the era from the 1987 or '88 to like 1990. I want to say '93. With the fan base changing over the years, I wonder if the character may have gotten a little stale. And I'm not meaning that in any form of disrespect, but during that time, and you know this too, as times are changing, fans wanted more. They wanted a different type of wrestling show, a more realistic or Jerry Springer-esque type show, if that makes sense.
Because the Attitude Era. And not many guys, because you either were the, you wouldn't have I'm trying to give a name that wouldn't really fit well in the Attitude Era. They would have to kind of like change how they were. But Warrior, I don't think he was fit. I'm not saying this to discredit him or anything. I don't think he would be the type of guy to fit in Attitude Era. So
no.
When he went to WCW, which I don't think honestly really went well for him, because you've seen the same thing happen with Bret Hart. He leaves, goes to WCW, and everything went downhill from there.
Well,
and he, after going to WCW...
Even in the DVD, when he talked about it, he said, had he known what their intentions were how they were going to use him in WCW, he would not have even taken the money they offered him. He basically came in and laid down for Hogan. I guess Hogan wanted to get him over.
He retired after his stint in WCW. He retired, and
yeah, he did.
That's when he basically went to the face of the earth, and he returns to 2014. And that was it. That was the last really big wrestling appearance that he ever had. It wasn't WCW.
Well, no, because technically
I don't think it was.
Technically, I want to say about 5, maybe 6, possibly 5 to 8 years ago, he wrestled a match against Orlando Jordan.
Yeah. But it wasn't really known. I mean, I don't think it was.
No, it really wasn't. Not many people knew about it. It was for, I believe, it was a promotion that was out in I want to say
New
Spain.
Wrestling. In New Wrestling, I think that's what it was called.
Something like that, yeah. But he, as far as WWE he stayed away. He still he like you said, he made the deal that he would accept the Hall of Fame under his condition, which they allowed. And I have seen it, and it was very well done, very well, and I know he was proud of it. So I encourage you, Austin, if you haven't seen the whole thing all the way through, watch it.
No, I seen it actually today. Like I was saying, I didn't have time to watch it last week, but I pre-ordered the DVD, and when I got it in, I didn't have exactly the amount of time to actually just sit down and watch it. And I watched it earlier today, right before the Home Tower Ultimate Warrior thing on WWE Network started, and that was, it's excellent. If you guys who are listening haven't got a chance to watch it, you need to find it and watch the entire thing, because that was a real story. If you have a pre-received notion about how he was in the self-destruction DVD, just throw that out in the trash. Throw it in the trash. There's nothing. They basically trashed him in that DVD. This is a real story, 110% from the mouth of the Warrior.
Very true.
And from continue. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, another one that gets forgotten a lot of times is because it wasn't really, let's just say, catch-as-catch-can style, was Warrior against Andre the Giant. Now, there was two sides to the story. In the original DVD the WWE did years ago, and Bobby was talking about it, Bobby said that Andre didn't care for Warrior, and Warrior said, he and Andre got along fine. I mean, if he liked you, obviously he would put you over, but if he didn't, obviously nobody's going to tell Andre what to do. And I don't know, their matches, like I said, they weren't the typical wrestling matches, because Andre really couldn't wrestle in his later years. I mean, he could move around. He had his typical movements where he would a lot of headbutt, a lot of choking, a lot of boots, or even he would allow himself to be caught in the ropes like he used to. But otherwise, it was what it was.
Basically him. Because, Andre, like you said, he was pretty limited in his later years. It was kind of when he was getting out of things. And I don't think his matches with Warrior are bad. I mean, they weren't the best, but I'm saying that I think he worked well enough with him, because it was kind of hard, I guess, to work with Andre the Giant being as tall as he is, and how at least in those years, maybe some in earlier years, I don't know. I don't know. With Andre, it was kind of different. He couldn't really do much at all. And,
there's also other matches that he had with Hercules, and most notably when he was working with Jake, and Jake was preparing him for his battles against the Undertaker, and eventually Warrior got bit by a cobra and finds out that Jake basically double-crossed him and was working with Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I mean, maybe just one comment right here with Hercules. Hercules was, he wasn't quite as the same height as Andre the Giant, but he was, I don't know, I think he was kind of not on par, but kind of, he can still work with him, and that was maybe the downfall for Warrior versus Andre in some matches they had, but when they wrestle, like you kind of see on WWE Network earlier tonight, when they had the whole entire match between him and Warrior, like you were saying, he did a lot of choking. He got his arm stuck in the ropes, and that's basically how he won and stuff like that with Warrior and Bobby Heenan on the ringside and stuff. So he wasn't. Andre was kind of limited, and I don't know. People say that Andre is maybe the best superstar to come out of WWE. Talking about people, actually, going to the arena to see him. But I don't know. I don't want to be. I'm trying to really choose my words here. I don't want to seem disrespectful.
No, he was who he was. He was an attraction. Back then, to see a giant was not
like
something you see every day. You don't expect to see it.
Scenario.
So they came to see him. So he was definitely an attraction for many, many years, and it worked. He ended up being the very first inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame. Very well. The McMahon family had so much love for Andre because Andre, did what he did to help their company. Even when he, originally when Andre was still setting up he was looking to retire back in '87, but Vince talked him into coming back and passing the torch to Hogan, and he did. He was very proud of the match and so on and so forth, and he would go on to wrestle a couple more years and then have his matches with Warrior that we were just talking about.
I don't know. The reason why I couldn't really say much is I was choosing my words very, very softly. I don't want to say anything to make people think I'm trashing Andre the Giant or anything. That's it.
No, it's fine. We understand that.
Now, what you were saying about the Undertaker?
Oh no, I was just mentioning that with the issue with Jake preparing Warrior for his battles against the Undertaker. When in turn Jake actually double-crossed him and revealed that he actually was working with the Undertaker to set up the Warrior.
Definitely. They had that was unique. I had a clip for it prepared, but like I said, there was a before that clip. It was in the same clip. They had another clip of some other guys. I think it was Papa Shango and his tag team partner, and it was pretty long, so I didn't include it. But the Undertaker and Ultimate Warrior as a tag team, even though I don't think it was that long, they were probably the most unique thing going in that time, because you have a guy who has the Ultimate Warrior who has all this energy, and then you have the Undertaker who's negative, completely negative, and then that was the the driving point, if you want to say that. I don't know what to call it. It was so unique. Like, who would have thought that they would bring in that combination is just, oh my God. You have the energy guy, and then you have the negative guy just taking everything out. It was
the
weird.
slow, the methodical, the Undertaker.
And you have Paul Bear in the middle.
At that time impervious to pain, and it's Paul Bear, the screechy Paul Bear voice.
It was interesting.
It was.
But I actually want to play one more clip from the Hogan and Warrior, saga there, from WrestleMania 6. This is on Saturday night's main event. And he's speaking about Hulk Hogan in the ordinary Ultimate Warrior fashion.
The Ultimate Warrior, take it, Gene.
All right, I thank you very much, Vince McMahon. I've got to pose some of the questions to you, Ultimate Warrior, that Vince just discussed with the World Wrestling Federation champion, Hulk Hogan. First of all, what happened tonight? Ultimate Warrior.
What happened tonight was already written, Hulk Hogan. It was written a long time ago when the Warriors that came before me and you. Yes, I'll do it. Now what we must do is beyond us, Hulk Hogan. I stood with my back to you, Hulk Hogan, and I knew you would not come. But Hulk Hogan, when I looked into your eyes, I saw walls filled with fear that ran thick through you, Hulk Hogan. At Royal Rumble, I needed no friends. I needed no partners. Every man stands by himself like the Ultimate Warrior always has. But Hulk Hogan, you still do not understand. You still have mistrust. I need not your protection, Hulk Hogan. Look on the walls of the Joe Louis Arena.
What in the world?
The Warriors that could not come have attached themselves to the outer structure, Hulk Hogan. They're seeping through, feeding me with the power to survive. They ride on my back for my protection. I need not you, Hulk Hogan. And if you look closer, you will notice red and yellow, the colors of Hulkamania. Hulkamaniacs that are questioning. Do you have, Hulk Hogan, what it takes to be the most powerful force in the entire universe? Hulk Hogan, look at me, Hulk Hogan. Look at me.
Please.
Without the pain, Hulk Hogan, the desire to withstand the pain and give you the utmost in battle and combat at WrestleMania 6 still stands, Hulk Hogan, for I am the chosen one.
I get the impression that we've got a loose cannon on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, with the Ultimate Warrior. We're going to be back with James Buster Douglas right after this. Don't go.
I actually remember watching that Saturday night's main event. When I heard the name Buster Douglas, I remember they were supposed to have Mike Tyson come in and be a referee back then, and it didn't work out, unfortunately. But yes, I also remember that interview.
You want to see that?
Well, no,
Tyson was a referee.
Tyson was supposed to be the referee between Hogan and Savage.
Well, thank God they held it until many years later. You wouldn't have known.
Well, maybe not, but I mean, I thought that was an interesting idea they went with because Buster Douglas would end up losing the title just days after his appearance in WWE. But, one thing I noticed from that interview that Warrior did, his intensity, I swear to God, he was at over 150 miles an hour within his intensity. That if I can imagine how Gene was feeling right then and there.
It's insane. Just watching these, I love talking about the Ultimate Warrior because he was one of the most unique people to ever live. And as crazy as it is how the last week's events turned out, people will always remember him because I think if it was me and if I was in his life, I wouldn't. I would have. I don't know if I would. I'm trying to put this in to make it understandable here, but I love the way he died. The days before, and not the heart attack or anything. No way. I'm talking about the way he went out. His before he died was so impactful.
Well, I mean, he came out. He made it worthwhile and made it memorable because, in reality, I mean, he was somebody back then, and the fact that his legacy will live on is something that really makes him happy and makes him proud because with the WWE Network, as I've told a lot of our former guests, the fans get reintroduced to who they were and why they were so big back then. Year after year, more fans get reintroduced to the golden era, to the new generation, to the attitude era, and so forth.
And I love the fact that they're actually the fans now are getting a chance to see things like WCCW and World Class Championship Wrestling, on the network, and that was the starting point for, in my mind, that was some of the best wrestling you can see, and entertainment, too. That was really entertaining just to watch that. And the WWE Network, as much as people, have been promoting it, it's a real treasure, because a lot of stuff is on there in one place. You kind of have it in the palm of your hand. And seeing everything that we have now, the people today, the kids today that want to go back and see it, have the opportunity to do that, and really, it's really easy to it's there. And I apologize for saying, oh yeah, I love the way the Ultimate Warrior died. That didn't sound right. I meant I love the way he went out, because if it was me, that would be the way. If I knew I was going to die a few days later, that was impactful. That was.
I don't think he really knew, but I understand your point.
That's kind of more of a way of thinking, but that was the way.
Well, no, because what it is that he made peace. And, a lot of people, when things like this happen, the unforeseen circumstances that life gives you, it's good not to hold any grudges, not to have any resentment in your heart, because you never know if it'll be the last time you see him. And the fact that he made peace with WWE, he was at their Hall of Fame, he was at their WrestleMania, he was at the Raw the next night, and he really got to go out on his own terms, his way. He, even though he didn't have the makeup on Raw, he put on one of the little masks that they sell there, and put himself back into the character one more time, which I thought was a very nice touch, very respectful way to do it, so his girls could see what their daddy was, who he was back then, and how intense he was.
And we're actually going to play that clip in its entirety very soon, from him talking on Raw and a little bit from his Hall of Fame speech. But like you said, I actually seen him. I went to WrestleMania 30 Superdome last week when he came out to the Hall, when all the Hall of Famers came out, and the Ultimate Warrior came out. That was insane. Just people really loved him, and
they do.
I'm so privileged to be able to actually, say I've seen him a few days before he passed, and I would never expect the way events led out to, and the final days was insane. But at the same time, it's a blessing because he left everybody, behind him.
And the fact that he got to actually make peace with Vince, and the picture that's obviously been around Facebook for a while now, is them, Warrior and Vince hugging. And Vince, I believe the words that he said to him was that he loved Warrior. He didn't always like him, but he did love him.
And I actually have another clip that I cannot believe I did this beforehand. Now we're talking about this in this stage of the game in the tribute show. But we have to play this clip from the Ultimate Maniac, giving the lowdown on how to actually be in a tag team. What does it take to be an Ultimate Maniac? This is from 1992.
Take a good look, Razor Ramon, and Nature Boy Ric Flair, for what you see across the back of this macho man, and across the face of this one, the Ultimate Warrior. It's the bondage of the Ultimate Maniacs. No sleep, no food, no nothing. Just maniacism. As a skeleton, we still walk as Ultimate Maniacs. Therefore, what are you gonna do? Bury us now?
Gets to a point where it really doesn't matter. You guys don't really know us like you think that you do. Riding on the edge of a lightning bolt, yeah, we are. We are the Ultimate Maniacs, and we are Ultimate Survivors. We're not planning ahead. Welcome to the big time, because we're already here, and we ain't going nowhere. Do you dig what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Come bring it to us, and we'll bring you all the way down. Dig it.
I love that because they were so both intense. The intensity was just off the chain with both of them, and I think that's why they had a great respect for each other.
What I was laughing at is how quickly Warrior transitioned into being intense, and then he's like a skeleton type, this being he's like, and then just getting all slow. That was the Ultimate Warrior. That was, my God. And those, the Mega Maniacs, I think, were...
No, Ultimate Maniacs. Ultimate Maniacs.
Yeah, I'm saying, I keep referencing Hulk Hogan. I'm trying to talk about something else in their tag team. But the Ultimate Maniacs were polar opposites, yet they were kind of they had a lot of similarities. Because they were colorful.
Their intensity was equally matched
yeah.
between each other. Randy and Warrior had so much intensity. I think he even said he was saying how Randy was just so pumped all the time, and it was going at it's just fully intense that it actually inspired him. You know, he had great respect for Randy.
Now I ask you a question: if you would choose some, the Maniacs, what would you go with? Would you go with? I'm talking about who might have been better together, the Mega Maniacs or the Ultimate Maniacs?
Well, just to make sure it's clear that you understand who you're talking about, the Mega Maniacs were Hogan and Brutus. The Ultimate Maniacs, Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. The Mega Powers was Hogan and Savage.
Mega Powers. I don't even know why I'm referencing these two. No. I'm gonna bring this out here. I'm thinking for a second that Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior were what did I say?
Hogan and Warrior never really teamed up together that much, if at all, really.
That's
it was more Randy Savage that worked with him. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
No, I have to worry about it. That's insane. Okay. It's crazy I just said that, but okay. Well, if you
stop it! Next thing you know, you're gonna start talking about the gobbledygooker.
Oh no, I can bring that up, and I actually forgot about that. I should start bringing that up more often. But since Saturday Night Slam is over, thank Jesus, I'm not gonna bring it up anymore. But no, that's probably the worst moment ever that I just said. That the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan were tag team under the name Mega Maniacs. Yeah, it was Brutus Beefcake. So, that's insane. That just happened. But I'll take it and say that the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage were as much different as they were. They had a lot of similarities, and the similarities definitely outdid the differences.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How great am I?
If I'm not mistaken, I'm just thinking about what you just said, and truth be told, the one thing that I do remember, and Hogan and Warrior did team up. I believe it was a Saturday night's main event against Mr. Perfect and the Genius.
And the thing is, they didn't have a long. I'm not saying that Warrior and Savage had a long-term tag team, but I'm saying that Warrior and Hogan never really had that tag team, that reign of a tag team, that really lasted a long time. And they might have.
He wasn't that good as a tag team person.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just saying Hogan was to me, he didn't fit in the tag team scenario. He was, from what I've always heard, and it is what it is. I'm not saying it to be rude or disrespectful. Hogan was always out for Hogan, whatever could benefit Hogan. And not taking nothing away from the guy. He's an icon, and whenever people think about wrestling, they're always going to remember Hulk Hogan. He's a pop culture icon for the last 30 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking. Because I think I was going to compare it. It was like when I keep on referencing Hulk Hogan, I'm trying to tell you about somebody else, but the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage, they had their tag team, but I remember, and I'm trying, and I don't have no clue why I brought up Hulk Hogan. I'm trying to do comparisons, saying, who do you like more than who do you think was Ultimate Warrior was better working with as a tag team than Savage and him? And I don't know why I'm blanked out on this. And I said that Hulk Hogan and Warrior were in a tag team apparently, so let's move past that. But the actual return for the Ultimate Warrior many, many, many years later was introduced with this clip of him being announced to be a addition to the WWE 2K14 video game last year.
Yeah.
Not even! The Grim Reaper himself storming to get his hands on my warrior soul can't keep me from hearing the battle cries of the warriors in the WWE Universe to experience WWE 2K14! Pay attention. Never before have so many superstars stepped up to challenge our throne. And if you pre-order WWE 2K14, you get to engage the battle as the Ultimate Warrior. That power, this intensity, your belief, our destiny, All of it together created the one and only Ultimate Warrior. All of us, the freaks, who did in our time what will live forever. Hold this, boss. Pre-order WWE 2K14 today and battle the one and only Ultimate Warrior. Become immortal. WWE 2K14. Pre-order now.
I always actually liked that commercial. In fact, I think we used to use that commercial quite a bit when 2K14 came out. I haven't got a chance to play it, but from what I've heard, it's a pretty badass game.
Definitely. That's actually the only game I get every single year. I'm not much of a video game fan when it comes to anything else but wrestling. But this game was pretty cool because you got to relive everything. Not everything. The intro moments. I'm saying intro. The best moments, I guess, from the 80s, 90s, and to now, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I remember the old school games that they had. Even now, I guess it looks pretty cool now. I mean, if I was into games, I'd probably get it. But even now, I feel like I'm too old to be playing games.
No, I don't know. I think everybody has a kid in their heart. They continue to have to have that in order to go on, and you have to. It's pretty cool. You used to go back and see that play as your favorite superstars, whomever they may be.
Well, I enjoyed the fact that a lot of the guys and gals who were working for WWE now were able to talk to Warrior, and even Batista said he was able to tell him that Batista shaking the ropes was kind of an homage to Warrior.
Really?
Absolutely. Even Daniel Bryan, he said he got to talk to him before his title match.
That's pretty cool. I think we should expect that because Batista doing that. But nobody can shake the ropes like Warrior. Even though it's probably an easy thing to do, nobody's ever done like it. The intensity was Ultimate Warrior. You talk about intensity.
What's that?
Continue.
Oh no, I was just saying. Do you think that there could have been any? Put it out here and say. Do you think that anybody could have done the Warrior character any better than him?
Nope. There's nobody in the world.
There was an ongoing rumor over the years, in the 90s anyway, that Warrior was not the real Warrior, that he passed away, that they put in a different guy to cover Warrior. And I say that because if you've seen his return in 1992 to save Hogan from the double team of Papa Shango and Sid Vicious, he looked a lot smaller. He wasn't as built as he was, and he talked about that in the DVD. I won't spoil it, but he did talk about it. And then the fact that the rumors were saying that Warrior had died in the 90s, or that it wasn't him, it wasn't the real Warrior. And all along, it really has. He hasn't changed anything. It was always him from way back in world class all the way through to the Hall of Fame.
And nobody, not even Jason Sensation, could impersonate the Warrior like only he can. And not in Warrior. That was just it. That was him, and 110%. We talked about that earlier. And he will be remembered forever, maybe not as the greatest wrestler, but as one of the best entertainers to ever walk the face of the earth. And all of that accumulated to, his Hall of Fame speech. And we're going to play a clip of that. It's only a highlight of it. It's not going to be the full 14-minute thing. But if you ever get a chance, you guys have to check it out if you haven't checked it out already. The Ultimate Warrior speech to the Hall of Fame was absolutely great. And so here is just a clip of a highlight from his induction from last week.
I am Warrior. That is my name. I'm the creator and performer of the Ultimate Warrior, the one and only Ultimate Warrior. You are the Ultimate Warrior fans. Ultimate Warrior is a legend. And the Ultimate Warrior fans, you are legendary. You waited all these years to speak your voice. You fought. I saw you fight over the years. I saw you fight back at all the anonymous ones who put forward all the lies and the mischaracterizations. They tried to reprogram your minds, rewrite history about a wonderful, exciting, fun memory of the Ultimate Warrior. And you fought back, and I'm here tonight because of you.
You know, I watched that, and I remember one thing that definitely comes to mind was when the fans were going, "Thank you, Warrior," and he was saying, "No, no, no," and they were like, "Yes, yes, yes," and the camera shined right on to Daniel Bryan. I was like, he says, "Wow, he's been out of the business for so long, he didn't catch that."
I just, looking back at everything he's done, and being a big fan of him as I am, I don't know many other people that could ever match up. Nobody can match up to him. As the way, the character that he was, not even the character, the person he was, inside and out. The Ultimate Warrior, the spirit of the Ultimate Warrior, that was real, and it was more real than any character that could be portrayed. And I keep on saying character, that he wasn't a character. He was.
Well,
in
WWE, he was supposed to portray a character. Outside WWE, he still lived that character. I mean, he was Warrior, you know. And one thing I wanted to bring to your attention, I'm not sure if you heard about this. I think I just heard about it just tonight. I haven't watched the WWE Network yet, but I believe Sting, they actually got comments from Sting.
Yes, they did. Maybe like 10 seconds he was saying how the whole entire orange juice story, the mixing thing, and I read that originally from Sting's book, The Moment of Truth, which is a pretty cool book that you can get. It's not that long. I want Sting to hopefully write a huge, not a huge book, but I mean one like Chris Jericho's done or Mick Foley's. I would love that, because just that wasn't enough for me. I would have loved for Sting to write a book, and I know he could if he sat down, because from what I've read in Moment of Truth, he is an awesome writer, and really captures you in the moment that he was in. And he was on there for a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds, something minutes. He
had actually talked about the opportunity of getting to actually talk with Warrior in person and reminisce about the good times, which has been with the ongoing rumor. I say that with quotes, that he has yet to sign with WWE. He has signed with WWE. He hasn't signed with WWE, and the way he kept hinting at it, I'm pretty sure he's signed. It's just he's waiting for his debut to come out on TV and actually be part of Raw.
I have no clue how they're gonna bring his actually make Sting debut in WWE after the Undertaker losing, because that's my options. I have no clue what they're planning now.
Well, you know what? We'll save that discussion for another time, because I still think it can work, and I think they have other plans for Sting, as far as maybe 2 matches, maybe 1 match. That's away out of WrestleMania, and then maybe the match at WrestleMania that they still want to have. They still want to do it. But like I said, we'll leave that for another discussion another time.
I'd love to see it. But you were talking about earlier the tag teams. But this is why I just remembered, because we were talking about Sting, and I have no clue in hell why I didn't remember this at the time, about 10 minutes ago. But between the tag teams of you have the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage, and then you have the Blade Runners, Sting and the Ultimate Warrior. Who do you think worked well with each other better? And if you think they were kind of like on equal standard, make that known. Well,
here's the thing: Sting and Warrior, he even said they weren't the best of friends, but when they worked together, it just worked. They were both pumped up. They were both intense. They were both greener. What's the word? Greener than goose crap, goose shit, whatever you want to call it. But they were still learning. They learned together, and they created a bond at that point. That although they kind of lost touch over the years, that moment in time that they had together is something that Sting will always look back on with delight, and happy that he got the chance to work with him.
Mm-hmm.
As far as who was a better tag team, I will have to. I don't know if it's possible, because I'll be honest with you, I was too young to watch the Blade Runners. I wasn't watching World Class back then. I didn't even know about it when it was on, but I grew up with the Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior characters. If I had to be biased, I'd have to say, my vote would have to be for Randy and Ultimate Warrior, because I'm not knowledgeable enough to know what Sting and Warrior were like.
I mean, they I think have their I guess there are, good sides and bad sides to everything. And I don't know, with the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage, to me, maybe, and I'm not saying this because, the Blade Runners, I think, started off with everything. I don't think if it wasn't for the Blade Runners, the Ultimate Warrior wouldn't have, the entire face paint stuff that he has, and I think him and Sting kind of started that as a tag team. And you can say the same thing with the Road Warriors and such. And who was actually, opponents of theirs a few times. And I think, personally, in my opinion, between those two tag teams, I would have to say that the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage were the better between them. And the reason why I say that is because they were, and I keep on saying this, but as much differences as they had a lot of similarities that really just connected together and brought things out like they've never been before.
Yeah.
At the time.
Of course. And as far as Survivor Series, I would have I know that didn't work out the way they'd actually wanted it to, and they put Perfect in. I wonder if people would, have wondered what that match would have been like, or were they okay with with them going with Kurt?
I know.
Originally, it was supposed to be Warrior and Savage against Razor and Flair. I don't know. I don't know. There's always that what if. What if it worked? What if it, was it better that Kurt took his place? I don't know, because, truth be told, nobody really knows why Warrior left.
And that's, I think, part of the reason why Vince maybe had some animosity, between them, and which kind of, I don't know if he maybe they did, kind of forgive each other and made peace this last weekend, and I don't think we'll really know what was said between them to make things right again. But I'm glad to see that they sort of buried the hatchet.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you think of their? Huh?
I was going to say they actually have a few more clips to play. They have this was from WWE.com, I believe. It was actually his Ultimate Warrior reflecting on his legacy. I think this was actually filmed before the Hall of Fame and WrestleMania, the Raw speech he had. So I'm going to play this. It's about 4 minutes long, but it's really good and informative.
I want to give a speech that people never forget. I want to say things that are much more than just, stories from the road and stuff. Because my career means more to me than that. Having had my career just means so much more to me than just what I did in the wrestling ring or what I did in those arenas. I've lived so much more life outside of that, in the arena of the world since then. And one of my virtues is that I've always paid attention to what's going on in my life and the experiences I've had. And I've always been introspective anyway. And so I think about it all. I think about having those kind of experiences back then and being that just physical freak and just explosive and energetic and being allowed to do that. And then later in life, time goes by and you get older and there's some things you got to sit down and you got to reevaluate and you got to say, okay, where do I go here? Where do I get my motivation? How can I be inspiring now? How can I do that? Well, Vince asked me a couple years ago to go into the one I think they had in Phoenix, and I said no. I said they had to tell the right story. So we negotiated for 2 years to get to the place where I know they're going to tell the right story. The guy portrayed on the DVD, the self-destruction DVD, isn't a guy that would be asked or wouldn't be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's all nonsense. You don't bring a guy back to the company, a persona back to the company. That's a waste of time. You don't bring him back 3 separate times. And so that's what I mean by that. And so I'm excited to get beyond that and tell the right story. It's an incredible story. The Ultimate Warrior character was such a delight in the business. In other words, it could have just been left alone. It was fun. It was energy. It's something that people haven't forgotten. They've continued to remember. It could have been just left at that. And to go and personally, to really attack it in a way like it and rewrite its history is, it pisses me off, but it makes me sad. It hurts my heart. The fact that it happened has really been instrumental in me viewing life or viewing myself as a man, as a husband, as a father in a lot of serious ways. What success does to myself, but what it also does to other people. I mean, I've said before, Ultimate Warrior is like a muse to me. He's a guy that smacks me every morning and says, don't feel sorry for yourself. Get out there and make it happen and stuff like that. So, and he always will be. But, I want him to keep running. Just keep running, man, into the future and keep inspiring people and stuff like that, and he will. But it represented one stage of life that I think is okay for a man to want to have, and every man should have, to go out and be competitive in a world in a really serious way, in a very intense way. And Ultimate Warrior is like an archetype of that. It represents all those things on all those levels. But there's also a different time in your life where you need to step up to a different level and be something different. And that has happened for me. I'm comfortable with that. And I think that I've proven myself to be a good representative of that. I mean, Ultimate Warrior was so one of a kind and unique. You can't go back, and you just come to a point in time when you can't go back and people have a visual of that. That's what they have a visual of. That's what they want, is that thing. So I want them to keep that. I want them to keep that. It's okay. You keep it. It's cool. It's yours, and we'll be all right.
I think there was a lot of feeling behind that. He expressed how he felt about the Destruction DVD, and his number one exception. I don't know if it's exception I want to use, but the only way that he would return and accept the Hall of Fame, which he stated, if they told the right story. And like I said, all was done, and I don't think there could have been a better send-off.
No doubt, and he just proved right there. I mean, he's always proved that the Ultimate Warrior spirit that really was a spirit. I entirely believe that. It's not weird. I was saying, well, the Ultimate Warrior was a spirit. He always has been a spirit, but he really was. There was a unique sense when he came out to the ring that something, that he had the crowd in the palm of his hand, but not really. Like he didn't really have the people kind of like have him. It kind of fed into him, and that's why everything clicked. That's why he was who he was, because the fans, the Warriors, made him who he was by giving him the energy to do what he did. And I don't think, and you talk to all the your professional wrestlers and say there's nothing like going out in a crowd of just thousands, especially the WWE guys, going out in a crowd of thousands and feeling that electricity, that intangible electricity that can't be duplicated anywhere else. It's a unique feeling that's undescribable. It's kind of like I think it's kind of like supernatural. There's no way. I mean, there's no way that something like that can radiate from a television screen. That's why I think professional wrestling is so. It's so, I don't know. It's amazing. It's phenomenal that professional wrestling has that. The people in professional wrestling, at least most of them, some of them, especially Warrior, has that connection with his fans where you don't have to be 10 feet away from him in order to feel it. You can be 37,000 miles away and still feel it through a television screen. And that's why the Ultimate Warrior will be remembered for the person that he is, and the person that he's going to continue to be when he inspires people down the line in the future.
Absolutely. Definitely an inspiration to many people, and will be for years to come. His speeches that he had over from the Hall of Fame to Monday Night Raw, people kind of over-examine it a little too much. If that being that he was his last speech, it was coincidence that unfortunately the very next day he passed on. But in his heart, I think he was at peace with everything and everyone in his life.
Definitely, and I think that we would like to leave you guys with his speech from Raw, and really just cement the legacy of the Ultimate Warrior for the last few words he kind of had for us. But even though those might have been his last words, his words from the past, everything that he said will go on to the future and continue to inspire people forever.
I think so too. We want to send our condolences and.
I'm sorry, I just completely put that on accident. Okay, I'm sorry. What you were gonna say?
No, I did. I just wanted to make one last comment, and we just wanted to say we were just sending out our condolences to his wife Dana and to their daughters, and know that there's a lot of people keeping you guys in their prayers. So that's all. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a speech from Monday Night Raw. But some of the last words he had for his fans, and like I said just a few seconds ago, his words will live on throughout time. Seriously, and this is kind of the last words that I have for us, and it was great words. It was some of the most inspirational stuff you can hear. This is the Ultimate Warrior.
As I thought about what I was going to say this evening, it's been hard for me to find the words. That
this is going to be great. There you go. There's the Warrior.
Well then, you shut up, Warrior, and let me do the talking. No WWE talent becomes a legend on their own. Every man's heart one day beats its final beat. His lungs breathe their final breath. And if what that man did in his life makes the blood pulse through the body of others, it makes them bleed deeper in something than larger than life, then his essence, his spirit will be immortalized by the storytellers, by the loyalty, by the memory of those who honor him and make the running the man did live forever. You are the legend makers of Ultimate Warrior. In the back, I see many potential legends, some of them with warrior spirits, and you will do the same for them. You will decide if they lived with a passion and intensity, so much so that you will tell your stories and you will make them legends as well. I am Ultimate Warrior. You are the Ultimate Warrior fans. And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever.